afternoon, and welcome to another edition of our Friday show. I am Dave Kluge, and I'm here with Stephie Smalls back from Columbia and back in her own home studio. No surprise, but we've got another awesome guest coming at you today. We've got the senior writer for The Athletic and a ranking extraordinaire, Jake Ciely. So, Jake, if you want to let everyone know what you've got going on right now and give them a quick introduction, we'll get to know you a little bit later. But if you just want to let everyone know where they can find you.
Yeah. I mean, at All It, as you mentioned, tweet out and annoy everybody on Twitter. So there you go. That's the easiest way to do it. But yeah, I would appreciate people reading my top 85 NFL draft prospects. It's probably one of my top 3 articles that I write every single year. So if you like me, give it some love. If you don't like me, just go click on it anyway and accidentally give me some love.
Very good article. It's definitely worth reading 100%.
Yeah, and it's 85 skill players.
Yeah.
So, right. Quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end. Nothing else.
Like, you think you know what's going on? Like, this is a good article, but I promise you don't. Right? Like it's a good article to actually get some knowledge in your head.
So where did the 85 come from? That's kind of a random number. Did you shoot for 100 the first year, and then at 85 you just threw in the towel and you said, "This is what I'm doing from here on out"? 85. That's perfect.
No. So for the first 2 or 3 years I did it, I actually just cut it off, whatever I cut off, like who I thought was relevant, who might get drafted. And that ended up being like 70 something the one, I think it was like 77 or 78 the one year, and then it was in the 90s another year. And then 2 years ago I did 101, and I purposely did 101 instead of the top 100 to be different, just top 101. And then last year I said, well, you know what, I did about 20 guys that didn't even get picked up in undrafted free agency after the draft. It's like, I'm not going that far anymore, just because who cares about people playing in the CFL and the XFL when it's back? So I trimmed it down. And last year it was 88 last year. And I wanted to get to like, I'm people call me like OCD, but I'm borderline OCD. So I don't like having a non-5 or non-0 end of the number. So I said this year, let's see what I end up at. And I put my list and I just let it fall where it did. And interesting enough, I did have 10 quarterbacks, 5 tight ends, and then I had 30 running backs. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to cut off the wide receivers to make it 85. And that's where it ends up.
Nice. So did you get James Robinson on there last year? Did he make the cut? Because he technically went undrafted. A lot of people weren't even talking about that guy, but
James Robinson made the cut. I actually had an article after the draft where I talked about him. I said 2 reasons: underrated him before the draft, but also underrated him still after the draft because of Emory Hunt. So for everybody out there, real quick, and this has nothing to do with us, but Emory Hunt is like if you took me and multiplied it by 150 and then also brought in like Einstein level genius. Like, he is the best NFL scout I've ever seen in the history of forever, in my opinion. So when he said, pay more attention to James Robinson, I said, I'm going to go back and I'm going to recheck what he knows about James Robinson. And I moved him up after that. But that was because of Emory. That wasn't because of me.
Yeah, a lot of those big names were really calling for him last year. I saw in May, right after the draft, Thor Nystrom over at NBC Sports Edge was saying the same thing. He's like, keep an eye out on this James Robinson guy. But anyway, we don't talk too much football on this show. We'll have a few football questions, but before we get into all that, I do want to introduce. I don't even know if it's introduced because everyone already knows who Stephie Smalls is. But Steph, if you want to let everyone know what you've got going on, I know you've got a new show coming out soon. I know you just got back from Columbia. Yeah. So let everyone know where they can find you.
Back with my White Claws is what I am happy about. I just finished recording. Jake was on with me. Let's see how it goes. I hope it comes out good. It's going to be released tomorrow, and I'm excited for everyone to see it with FTN Network. It should be fun.
All right. Yeah, we got White Claw Stephie back after seeing Margarita Stephie last weekend.
I brought my similar can of this is I don't. Yeah, so there you go.
Yeah, you're very against the seltzers, right, Jake?
Seltzers and alcohol. So there you go.
There you go. I'm drinking water myself today, but so. First of all, when I was writing this show sheet, I always say the guest takes can be found somewhere. And when I was writing it out, I wrote Jake's takes can be found. And then I thought, have you thought about doing a show called Jake's Takes? Are we onto something here? I mean, it could be worth something.
The funny thing is so I'm in Virginia. So there's the Washington Huddle, which is a local coverage of the Washington football team, previously different name and now the football team. But I've been doing that for about 4 or 5 years now, and I do it every single week. They bring me in and I talk fantasy, but they always include at least 1 or 2 Washington questions, and it's called Jake's Takes. So there you go. It's
Love
good.
it. I didn't even see that when I was going through my research. Perfect.
No,
Yeah,
well, I mean,
almost...
we're talking about a local TV station in Norfolk, Virginia. So it's not really high up on the media level. I'm not surprised you haven't come across it.
Yeah, that one did not show up on my radar. So we've got Troy King asking right off the bat. So maybe we can come back to this later. I guess you got some dating horror stories that you might want to share. Maybe we can touch on that a little bit later in the show.
No,
but
for anyone, cyber stalking.
I didn't see that one. But for anybody that's seen the show, we're not going to do a deep dive in football. Jake's Takes can be found everywhere, including your local TV show in Virginia. But we're here to get to know Jake a little bit, find out about the person behind the analyst. So the first one I'm going to start off with, I've noticed that you have a pretty tumultuous relationship with the New York Giants. I think that's where you and Steffi actually kind of met, were on the Giants Twitter streets, as she called it. So what I want to know is, now going into 2021, you guys made a really splashy move in free agency by bringing Kenny Golladay in. Daniel Jones seemed to kind of take a step forward last year. You got Saquon Barkley coming back healthy. So how are you feeling about the Giants in 2021? Are you going to be rooting for them in week 1 or what?
Fart noise. No, because
we need the worst Giants fan ever.
I'm the most realistic Giants fan.
Me about the Giants, and then all of a sudden you admitted that your dog's name was Barkley. Like how we met, and then I figured out that you were actually a Giants fan, but he was trolling me. You were literally trolling me about the Giants.
No, I'm a real Giants fan. I can admit that they're a travesty of the NFL right now. And look, yes, they made a splash, but they made a splash with poor return on investment, which is what Gettleman has been doing. Poor return on Stephanie and I just talked about it. And I said, of the 4 offensive linemen, the worst one. So yeah, there you go. Grogu. That's the child. Stop with the Grogu crap. It's the child. We're not going to call it, or Baby Yoda. Grogu's the worst. Anyway, it's just that they always overspend, and one of the biggest things is not even just the Kenny Golladay, and you could have went out there and did like a Corey Davis instead, and then you could have, instead of a Dory Jackson, there was a bunch of other corners that signed, and you could have possibly still brought back Dalvin Thompson. That's my issue. It's not the fact that they did address issues. They did. Kenny Golladay was a major get. Dory Jackson was a major get. It's just you could have done that and still done it better investment wise and fill the third hole, maybe address the offensive line before the draft. And that's my issue with Gettleman, is just the way that he goes about things. And now looking at it already, 2022. So I compared Gettleman. So one of the Dan Dugan, who writes for the Giants for The Athletic for us, he tweeted out their salary cap situation for next year already. And the fact that there's about 7 players accounting for over $100 million in the cap already. And I said, this is if anybody's ever worked in the restaurant industry, Dave Gettleman is the night shift that doesn't give 2 Fs about who walks in to clean up the mess in the morning. That's what it is.
I am already having a little bit of a rough day, and I feel like you're making like, thank you, Gene. I get it.
Yeah, I feel like, I feel like when you're in one of those, when you're running one of those big, mass markets like the Giants or the Bears or something like that, you almost kind of have a duty to appease the fan base and bring in those big names that are going to fill in seats. And it's frustrating because the Bears do the same thing often. They'll bring in these big splashy names. And like you said, you could have gotten Corey Davis, who is, maybe 80% of the player, but 50% of the price. But you almost feel like they need to go out and get that big name to fill in the seats and keep the fans happy. So I
not even that. We saw what happened with the wide receiver market. It was just like, you could have even probably waited and maybe even got Golladay for a little bit less, just because of how the market was shifting.
Right.
Yeah, $80 million.
Draft either. Like, if you know how to draft right too, it's like, I know we're gonna walk into this and just be idiots. Like, they're gonna do something dumb. Like, I'm expecting it to happen. Like, I can get over the money and I'll figure out a way to like stomach it if they can pull off a good season. But like, I'm not going to be able to stomach what they do in the draft. I never can. I don't remember the last time I was happy. Like, I was literally, I remember last year, I was crying. I was so mad that we picked Andrew Thomas of all the tackles. That's who you decided was great.
Oh, so you got to prepare yourself. Being a Giants fan, you should go into the draft knowing the worst possible outcome. So what I would prepare yourself for is, we'll say Kyle Pitts goes off the board at 5. And then the Giants trade up to 8 to draft Freiermuth, because that's what that's something the Giants would do.
address the secondary more. Why not? Let's just like do something weird. Yeah,
Steph,
it's
you'll have
so
to go
bad.
back and watch this. I wasn't sure. I think your camera froze for a split second, but it
Yeah.
looked like you just had this blank expression.
It was
like,
perfect timing.
like it was like it was only for about 2 seconds, right as he was talking about trading up. For
Well, yeah, you
Brian,
brought
but-
your internet from Colombia or whatever. It's definitely.
I did. I think my internet was better. It's because I was using this to record my show. I usually use this computer to do our show. So I'll probably freeze a lot, which is fine.
But so Steph mentioned it quickly, but your dog is named Barkley.
Yes.
After Saquon Barkley. And we ask all of our guests this, and it's a fun question, and we have gotten an eclectic response from every single person we've had. First of all, is she a pity mix?
Yes, pit mix.
Pit
The
mix,
mom
all right.
was a rescue off the street, pregnant. She was a year and a half old. So I adopted one of the puppies, and we don't know what the dad was because the mom was a rescue off the street. So I don't know what she's
definitely
mixed with.
She's a mix with those big ears. You
I know.
don't
I
usually
miss
see
when
that
her
on-
ears flopped over. I liked it better, but everybody, I tell you, everybody loves the ears being propped up. I liked it better flopped over.
So we ask all of our guests this: if you had to think of an NFL player comp for Barkley, and you can't pick Saquon Barkley because that's just way too on the nose. If you had to pick an NFL comp for your dog, who would it be?
Oh man, that's a good question. I have to think about it. So she's fast as hell. She can be like she's really aggressive when she plays, but friendly aggressive. So, you know what? I would say in his prime, because she's also better than everybody else's dog. So, in his prime, Rob Gronkowski.
Ooh, love it. All right, that's a
There
good
you go.
one. I don't think we've heard
Huh?
anyone comp to Gronk yet. That's a good one. Now we only have one more question about the Giants, then I promise we'll move off the Giants for the rest of the show. But I heard that you were blocked by Odell Beckham Jr. And I want to hear the story behind this. Were you blocked while he was still on the Giants?
Yes.
Well, what happened here? How did you end up getting blocked by OBJ?
Odell Beckham doesn't understand sarcasm. That's what it is. So this is
Neither
this
does
is back.
Louis Riddick, who is framed.
Mind you, I have an Odell Beckham New York Giants jersey and an Odell Beckham Cleveland Browns jersey, and I've actually had Nathan Zagura, who covers the Browns, try and help me get unblocked, and it still hasn't happened, but whatever it might be. So this was back when the Giants were playing the Packers in the playoffs, and it was the boat trip controversy. That was the whole the partying on the boat. And I thought it was ridiculous, and I even brought up before the time. I said, well, nobody cared that Tony Romo went on an escapade out to whatever he did with what's-her-face at the time. And I said, he's getting way too much crap for this. And I was defending him. And then at the game against the Packers, when they're getting destroyed, I made a joke. And I said, you know what? They would be playing better, especially the corners, if they didn't spend all that time on the boat. The corners weren't even on the boat. It was just the wide receivers. So I was making an obvious joke and talking about how ridiculous it was. And then I got blocked. And the only reason I even found out is because I found out the next day when somebody tweeted something about his tweet and I couldn't read it anymore. So it was like, this tweet is unavailable. And I was like, what? Well, this is unavailable. So I went to look and it's like, you've been blocked by Odell Beckham. So obviously he searched his name. I didn't even tag him
That's
at
what
all.
I was going to ask. So he found it on his own.
Oh,
Never
that's
tagged
very
him.
dramatic.
Yeah. So he must have searched his name and boat and came across it. So, or maybe somebody tagged him, like reported me.
Could have been that. Well, that's sorry.
Snitches get
Hopefully,
stitches.
he hasn't blocked me, so
He's
what I can
very
do is send this show
sensitive.
to him after, and maybe you can make your case for him. You know, I'll try to. I'm not blocked, so I can say, hey, you know, Jake's a good guy. He didn't mean any harm by it. He was being sarcastic.
He can block me and unblock you. Like I don't care if you block.
I defended him. That was the thing. I was defending him, and he blocked me.
Yeah, Steph is no stranger to getting blocked. What's your list up to now? I know you've had a few big names.
I have
blocked you.
Louis Riddick and Mark Colombo on my wall. Those are my two favorites. No, Louis Riddick is just a baby. There was no reason. Actually, Mark Colombo. I was very polite to Mark Colombo. There was no reason. I simply asked him to fix with me. I feel like that is not a rude. Well, I did call his firing, so I think maybe he was upset about that. That I knew it was going to happen. But I just asked him to fix what he broke. Like, you broke Andrew Thomas, so fix it. You broke it.
I can see the way. If you've seen the tweet, I can see.
So on the topic of tweets about players, one of my favorite tweets of all time is a tweet of yours, and I'll just read it out loud here. Yes, imagine how good Peyton Manning could have been if Adam Gase didn't coach him. I love that tweet. There's just so many layers to it. It is funny on so many levels. But I want to know, what would your season-long projections have been for a prime Peyton Manning if he didn't have Adam Gase coaching him? What could we have seen?
Probably like 6,000 yards and 60 touchdowns. Could have easily. I mean, yeah. That's the thing. Again, Peyton Manning didn't block me. He even if he saw it, is understanding the sarcasm and the depth to the tweet. Understand. Like, hey, like Friends is on in the background. I got Chandler version of me, and that kind of thing. But yeah, I thought that one was pretty funny too. I appreciate the fact that pop culture taste. Well, I mean, I got 8 billion things behind me. So I have so many Funkos. They're buried under here, propping other Funkos up.
My Funko is way cooler than yours.
You have one.
I saw somebody else talking about your Funko today on Twitter. Your crazy Funko collection. You got quite a few there.
And wait, I have a Deadpool thing. You just got a toss.
Deadpool like head now.
This is how I was in Columbia.
That's pretty great.
My body.
Oh no, do the other one.
Really rocks your
face. That is incredible. So
too much.
No, I love it. You should start like a hashtag Friday Funko where you just highlight a different Funko every single day. I know a bunch
You're adding work for me? Is that what you're trying to
do? So
what Funko I forgot I owned? That should be.
So we talked about it. Steffi's got her show coming out tomorrow, and she is new to hosting.
Okay.
I'm relatively new to hosting myself, and I know when you started hosting, one of the first interviews that you did was with Joe Montana, and I've heard a couple things about this interview. So is this something that you could talk about a little bit? Would you like to tell the story about your Joe Montana interview, first ever?
Yeah, but so this before I was even hosting. This is before I was even doing fancy. This goes way back. So I originally got my start here locally at Norfolk radio station, where it's a Fox affiliate at the time. And we were basically on air for about 6 months because the radio station we worked for, instead of going all in, all in, instead of going all in with sports, they did like 50-50. They kept half the shows, and the other half of the shows were like wine tasting with blah 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 for a half hour, and then stock stuff, and so you go from 1 hour of wine tasting and stocks to all of a sudden there's fantasy coverage to all of a sudden now we've got Andrew Siciliano for an hour, and then we're back to housing market stuff, and so people listening had no idea. That's why it failed. I'm putting that out there. Why? That's why it was only 6 months. But in that 6 months, kind of towards the end, Joe Montana was doing a thing around the United States for his, I forget whatever the name of the fundraiser was, that it's actually his foundation. And they contacted us and they said, hey, do you have anybody that would interview him for his thing? And the two guys I worked with, Mike and Bob, were already kind of checked out. They actually didn't even do the final month. I did the final month all by myself, by the way. So kudos for everybody, every single person who does, like Jim Rome, all those guys who do a show by themselves. It is the hardest thing I've ever had to do, to talk to yourself for an hour, let alone 3. But anyway, They asked me to do it. This is my first ever player interview, ever. And I've only been doing radio for 5 months. And I was the producer / talent. So I go to this place. I'm nervous as hell. I know he could see how nervous I was because I could feel the blood in my face. I could feel myself shaking. I'm pretty sure the papers were moving. I wrote down all my questions beforehand and out to a T. And what's the common thing for people to say is when you're trying to do something on stage or speaking or interviewing, he's open with a joke, kind of loosen things up. So I go there, sit down. It's in this hotel room, and he's sitting on the couch, and I sit in this little lazy boy right next to him, and I'm sitting there. And my first question was, "You don't have a nickname. We've never heard one for your entire playing career. There has to be something in high school, or your mom called you, or something like that. Let us know, what was the nickname, or are you too embarrassed to tell us?" And he sits there, stone-faced me, and goes, "Nope." And that was it. Not nope, anything else? Not nope. What? Just nope. Dead silence. Just waiting for the next question. And I'm pretty sure I blacked out after that because I don't remember the rest of the interview. I was just I felt sweat pouring down my neck. I was just so nervous, and he made it worse by being, look, He was a jerk. Joe Montana, you were a jerk. It was obvious I didn't know what I was doing. It was obvious I was nervous, and you made it worse. You could have played with me a little bit, but no, you stone-faced noped me, and to this day, I hate Joe Montana for it.
Well, I wonder if that had something to do with the fact maybe he, just knew that you were new and just wanted to, I don't know, maybe there's some hazing once you've been through, X amount of interviews. Yeah, maybe he I don't know. You got to talk to Mike and Bob. Maybe they set you up for this one.
It's really, I still, again, as you can tell, I'm still angry to this day. If I could block him on Twitter, you know what? Is he on Twitter? I'm going to block Joe Montana on Twitter right now if I can.
You should.
Block him with,
oh yeah.
Balance the universe out. Yeah. Odell blocking you.
I blocked Jeff Schwartz the other day and it felt so good. Like I was like happy.
There you go. I just blocked Joe Montana live on your show.
All right. Exclusive on our Friday show. Love to see it. But you've had some other interviews with some other high-profile quarterbacks as well that didn't go quite as bad. So I know you've got a good story about interviewing John Elway as well. So when was that you interviewed John Elway?
He's a stalker, just so you know. Like, if you don't understand, like, I literally have a Friday show with a stalker. Like, he finds out the weirdest things that I couldn't even imagine someone finding out.
No, so that's what it looks like. So my boss, Nando DeFino, joked me immediately about this because at the combine, I went for the last 3. I'm actually really upset that we didn't get to go to the combine this year. But anyway, so Joe Montana was there, and this was back in the draft with Noah Fant, and I was standing. So they have the podiums, which you see on TV, and it clusters really quickly. A lot of people don't like to stand immediately to the side, I guess, for the angle or whatever it is, but I chose that because I could get right next to the stage, and I was holding my phone because I was recording for my phone. Well, I didn't realize video was on instead of just regular audio. And I was holding it upside down like this to make sure the microphone part. So the entire interview, when I look back at the video, is this upwards, like crotch shot looking thing underneath John Elway the entire time I'm interviewing him. Yes, it's just like this awful, like from his area up. And like it's just the entire and I was asking him, I just said, you've been trying to address the tight end position. I'm paraphrasing whatever I said, for a couple of years. Do you see yourself, whatever? And he said he's looking for an inline tight end and all that type of stuff. But yeah, Nando DeFino watched the video and he was like, Jake, why are you a weird stalker trying to get a picture of his crotch? Like that's like I didn't even think of it, and that's exactly what he noticed.
Hey, well, yeah, I mean, I heard about that one, so I'm glad we got to talk about it a little bit. But there's one other thing that I came across when I was watching one of your shows, and this was about a what's the word I'm trying to think of? You were not interviewing, but you submitted a video to be a SportsCenter anchor a while back. God. And there was one line that
I told you, you think I'm crazy.
there was one line that I heard about where you called a home run by saying that ball was meat and it has been tenderized. And I got a laugh out of that. But I'm wondering, what is one of the corniest sports colloquialisms that you've heard outside of that one?
Can anything top that? I still remember. I can't believe. How did you even find that? I can't. I told you. I made that video. Did you? I thought you were going to mention the end of it. Did I mention what the end of the video was? So
I know how it ends, but you're more than welcome to share with the audience.
This is back in the day. Oh my God, how long ago? Because I know I did it on a VCR tape. Like that's like how far back we have to go for this one. So
well, I remember when they were doing that. I was I believe I was in high school at the time, so it had to be the mid 2000s. Because I remember when they were
just
doing
out
that.
of high school, yeah.
Yeah,
this is like going into college. This is So this is what they do that show for 2 years to be the next SportsCenter anchor or whatever. Yeah, so I did the whole thing, and I said, yeah, that ball has been it's tenderized. But I also ended it, and I said the best part about being an anchor is you don't have to wear any pants. And I stood up, and I was just wearing boxer shorts. I was like, hey. This will get their attention because like I remember recently before that, Tony Kornheiser was doing an episode of PTI and you could actually see under the desk and he was wearing shorts. So that's what made me think to do that. Yeah.
That is, I'm wearing nothing but my boxers.
Like foreshadowing. Because like now.
Is that what it was?
Kind of. Like I feel like no one. I was on a podcast the other day and the guy was like, I'm not wearing pants right now. So kind of.
I don't know. I can't think. That's a good question. Give me some options. I legitimately can't think of any off the top of my head.
No, I really just
It
wanted to
has
highlight
one
that.
person.
I can't think of
You
any off
just
the top
really,
of my head.
you could have just said, "Tell me the story."
Had to set it up somehow. But
Tell me
what
the
was that,
story when you didn't wear any pants on video and send it to ESPN. How about that?
what was the was it John Clayton that was in that old ESPN commercial where he like goes through his whole
Takes
thing
the
and then
hair,
he takes his
puts
shirt
the hair
off and
on?
undoes
Yeah.
his hair? Yeah.
All right, Mom,
Oh
I'm
man,
done. Yeah, that one.
those are great. Um,
Can't.
so let's get back to what was that, Steph?
I was just saying I'm not as old as you guys, so I can't really relate to that.
No, I appreciate
So
that.
I mean, we're like 3 years apart. You act like I'm like old enough to be your dad. We're
I
3
know,
years
it's
apart.
just kind of fun. I'm pretending I'm young. I'm still a 21. I'm just like 7 years older.
So you got into the industry almost right out of college. You've been doing this for a little while, and now you've got a great job with a well-respected website. You're the senior writer over
Even though I
over
work
at
there.
the Athletic. But what was that?
I said, even though I work there, well respected.
Yes, I mean, well, you guys do great work over there. But I'm wondering, what is your work story? Like, how did you get there? How did you, was it something that you wanted to write for the Athletic, or how did you end up writing for the Athletic specifically?
Well, so this is gonna Steph's gonna appreciate this. My career actually started on Giants forums for everybody out there. Accidentally, back in the day of forums, when everybody remembers those. Yeah, so I've been playing fantasy since I was 15, 16, so high school. So a very long time I've played, and Giants forums back in the day, and I was hopping on those, and you kind of build a relationship with people. And we started talking fantasy, and people would ask questions, and I'd immediately give my opinion every single time. Opinion. And then people started asking me, they're like, "Hey, Jake, when you come back, like, I got this question," or whatever type of stuff. And after about the second year of being on the Giants forums, one of the dudes, and I should have remembered his name because I should credit him to my career. He was like, "Why aren't you doing this?" Like, just that was his question. "Why aren't you doing this?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Why aren't you writing? Like, why aren't you doing this for a job or something like that?" And I was like, "Well, why not?" So I started my own blog on Blogspot.
Blogspot.
Yeah,
Wow.
Blogspot.
Haven't heard that one in a while.
I read something you either wrote or I heard something you talked about that.
Yeah, All in Sports Blogspot. It's still out there. Everybody can go find it if you really want to. Unfortunately, it's I don't remember how rough it was. I haven't looked back for a while, but it's very much a similar style that I have now. This was actually before I even knew who Matthew Berry was, and found out somebody. And the only reason I say this because somebody said I was trying to copy his style from my likes and dislikes or something like that. I didn't call them likes and dislikes, but whatever that might be. So I'm doing this as I graduate from college and start working at Geico initially because my degree was in marketing. Yay. So I'm doing this on the side while working full-time at Geico. I ended up working at Lillian Vernon as the internet marketing manager, still doing this full-time. For everybody out there that wants to know, doing this full-time for free. I don't recommend doing it for free, but if you really want to do this job and free's your only option, sometimes that has to happen. I'm just letting you know. That's the realistic side of it. Obviously, I don't want you to do it for free, but again, this is just my story. So I'm basically working 80, 90 hours a week because I'm working a full-time job plus 30 to 40 hours of doing this for myself. And I got picked up. So I used to also during lunch chats, stay at work, eat my lunch that I brought in, and go to ESPN on Tristan Cockcroft's chat every single day, or like the other ones. And Tristan and I developed a relationship for our love of chicken parm and the show 24. So he kind of started to know who I was. And then after 2 years
You're
of
the
doing
chicken parm guy.
Yeah. After 2 years of doing the blog, I said, you know what? I'm
going back to the meat. I see where it's going.
Yeah. So I sent out all my stuff to everybody, like everybody I could think of. But back then I wasn't knowledgeable enough, and I sent it to the talent. Like I sent it to Tristan, and I sent it to Max Kellerman and Tony Kornheiser and all these people because I didn't know any better. So I don't know that the talent doesn't hire. I just sent it to people who I thought. And I looked it up, tried to find all these addresses online and all that type of stuff. Tony Kornheiser and Mike Greenberg were the only two people that called me back. Tony Kornheiser called and yelled at me. Basically, if you want the quick version of that, I was at work, picked up the phone. He's like, "This is Tony Kornheiser. Is this Jake Ciely?" And I was like, yes. So completely shocked, taken off guard. And he goes, "What do you want to know?" I was like, how did like get into the industry to like where you are? He goes, "What do you want to do?" And I said, I want to write, talk about sports, radio, video. He goes, well, just start doing it. And I was like, well, what do you mean? Like, I want to know how to get where you are. And he goes, if you want to start writing about sports, start writing about sports. If you want to be on video, start doing videos. If you want to start like, all right, thank you. Like, thank you for like calling to yell at me and giving me no advice. But anyway, Tristan got me picked up with my old company, and I worked there since 2010 to 2018, initially for free off the jump, doing it full time, and wasn't paid for quite a few years, and then was paid part-time. And then The Athletic through Enos Saris asked me to do some baseball, and then I was going to do like a one-off article, and then they scrapped that to decide that they wanted to go full in with fantasy, and they reached out to my boss, Nando DeFino, and me, and brought us both. So it was them that wanted me, which that's the honor right there, is that they actually wanted me. And since August of 2018, I've been with The Athletic with Nando and others.
It's interesting that you talked about, kind of putting your dues in for free for a little while, because a few weeks ago on Twitter, that was a really, really hot topic. And we've had a lot of people that have, for all intents and purposes, made it in the industry. And they all say the same thing. I worked for free for like 3 years. I worked for free for 5 years. So it's kind of interesting to hear that from you too, because that was, like I said, a very, very hot topic. But it seems like a lot of people did have to put those free dues in for quite some time before they finally got their opportunity.
Yeah. It's, what, again, I would love to say don't do it for free, but it depends on what your drive is. If your goal is to make some money and do it as part-time, you could probably get that easily. There's a lot of sites out there that'll give you $50, $100 here or there, stuff like that. But that's not always going to get you where it was. And the funny thing was, for the longest time, I was like, oh, I want to win the lottery. Because if I won the lottery, I would move to ESPN and I would just say, give me a job. I'm going to work for free just so I can get in the door. So sometimes the only way to get in the door is for free. It's not the best, but I did it, and I would not recommend my path to anybody, but maybe if you want to be where I am. But I did it for free for 6 or 7 years, 30 to 40 hours a week. And it sucks. I don't recommend. I have full-time jobs, but not everybody has that luxury. So, I don't recommend it, but sometimes it depends on how bad you want something.
Yeah. And I was, doing this kind of on the side of my job. So I was working a full-time job, doing this on the side. And then I just saved up some money and left my job. And I was like, I'm going to give myself 3 years. And, if I make it in 3 years, cool. If not, I can always go back to selling logistics.
All right.
That job's not going anywhere.
Sometimes a medical student, and then you decided that you're going to take the semester off and just talk about football all day, because that's the same thing as a pancreas.
So you're a great writer, and you're good on shows and all that, but really what kind of put you on the map was your ranking ability. And I don't want to say put you on the map, but that's what you're known for, is being a really good ranker. Even back to like your rotoexperts.com days, that's when you really started crushing it. So what I'm wondering is, what is your process for ranking? Because it seems like everybody is different. Some people just plug the data into a spreadsheet and they have their own method, and whatever it spits out, that's what they're going with. Other people are just shooting from the hip and going with their gut. So how do you start your process when you're doing these rankings?
Well, it's really the same as my rookie process, where I say it's got to be metrics and film. Like, you can't do one without the other. If you're 100% a metrics person, you're going to miss out on a lot of things. If you're 100% film person, you're going to miss out on a lot of things, because nobody knows everything. So it's really a mixture of both, where I go in, and as many people could do, there's data scrubbing across sites from performances, whether you choose different things from offensive line, for air yards, whatever you choose. There's a strategy to picking which matters to you and what you think is the most actionable metrics out there for predicting. And then on the flip side of it is my own opinion. I mean, that's really what it comes down to is, I go through and I have a spreadsheet with my 32 teams on different tabs, and it's all, waterfalls down from what I expect the quarterback to do to everybody else, how it parses out. But at the same time, if I'm sitting there and I have a different opinion of like what the value should be, like I'll give you a good example is Mike Clay, who's one of the best at projections as well. Yeah. He's obviously, that's why he's working at ESPN. He was tweeting about J.K. Dobbins the other day, and he was saying like, look, I have some pretty aggressive numbers in the carries department, and that's just to get him in second round value. And this is almost peak performance of what you could expect. And I opened up a dialogue and I said, great point. but I could see him averaging 5 yards a carry, because if you look at Mark Ingram, just did that 2 years ago, and I think J.K. Dobbins is a better player. And you're talking about that offense, you're talking about that line, you're talking about what Lamar Jackson brings, and it's like we don't like projections are always going to be conservative. And but I say, if you look at J.K. Dobbins, I think 5 is a realistic per carry, and I say 10 plus touchdowns is realistic, even if that doesn't make a lot of sense of what projections should tell you.
And his projections are suddenly 2,500 yards and 25 touchdowns. Yeah.
Right. So, and I'll go back to a perfect example is 2 years ago is Lamar Jackson. I ran my projections. So it's funny. It's like, I trust my projections, but I also trust myself. And this is one of the times where I should have trusted projections. Sometimes, it goes both ways. Sometimes projections are better than I am, and sometimes my vision and, views are better. But 2 years ago, my projections spat out Lamar Jackson as the second best quarterback. And I said, that's too high. And I pushed him down to 6 or 7. I forget, like manually. And turns out it was too low because he finished as number 1. So it could go both ways, but that's why I say it's a mix, and we're never going to be 100% right. If you're 70% right, that's great. That's amazing. That's glorious. Honestly, 60% in Vegas makes you money. So that's all you're hoping for.
Yeah, and so many people, I feel like it's divided between like film and analytics, and people act like it's this black and white argument and completely ignore the fact that there's a lot of intuition that kind of goes into this as well. Like you need to kind of come to your own, conclusion and then hope that the film and numbers back it up. Because there's times where I'll think like I might be onto something, and then I look into the numbers and I'm like, nope, I was totally off base. That's not right at all. But I feel like a lot of this starts with intuition, and then you can kind of work from there.
Right. And that's where like the film side of the rookies come in. If you're just watching something, Steph and I talked about on the other show, is like one of my favorite underrated wide receivers is Bibi out of Illinois. And yeah, there you go. And people like look at Illinois and look at him, and you're kind of like, all right, well, he's fine or whatever. But it's one of those things where you look at the possibilities for what he does with the limited options that he has and the double and triple coverage he gets because he was the only real talent on that team. And you kind of go down that road. Obviously we're never going to be 100% right. People, CJ Anderson, people just still bring that up to this day. When I said he could be the number 1 running back because everybody next to Peyton Manning does great, and he bombed that year. So we're all going to be wrong.
I didn't fall for CJ Anderson, but I did fall for Monte Ball. So I get where
there's
you're
a lot of
coming
Monte
from.
Ball love out there too.
Yeah, I took him in the second round of one of my redraft leagues. Yeah,
I think I did too in one of my leagues. So I'm not gonna lie.
I think Monte Ball and then Toby Gerhart, his first year in Jacksonville. Those are the two that got me really bad. I thought Toby Gerhart was going to be a beast in Jacksonville, and
that's one where it wasn't. Yeah, that wasn't on the Gerhart bandwagon.
Well, let's talk about it, because you mentioned a little bit your process for evaluating rookies. So you're working on that 85 profiles right now, and you're somebody who really isn't afraid to go against the grain whatsoever. So what's one stance that you're taking right now that you'd say is going pretty hard against the consensus that you're reading?
Besides Amateur BB, I'm going to scroll up to where I have them right now. So I do tiers, because one of the things I used to, what was that?
No, I'm just trying to think, because there was a couple that were like definitely very against the grain.
Oh, well, I mean, this probably like Tutu Atwell, being the fact he's in tier 3, is everybody's, especially after weighing 155, everybody's like, he's dead. He's not going to be anything. But so while I say this, I do tiers because I used to rank, and then the rankings move too much after where players land, because there's a lot. And I'll make this comparison of Michael Thomas. I was extremely high on Michael Thomas, but I was higher on Michael Thomas after he was drafted, because what I said at the time is it's very rare that you see a perfect fit like that. You cannot find the skill set that he brought to the Saints at the time and Drew Brees at the time for what that meshed. And that's actually the year where I was like, you know what? We need to do tiers, because there's too much that could potentially change on a landing spot. So I say all that to say right now in tier 3, I have Elijah Moore in tier 3, and everybody seems to be all over Elijah Moore. And Matt Harmon, who does reception perception, great mind of himself, and he thinks he's one of the top, I think said 5 or 6 wide receivers, somewhere around there. He hasn't finished, so I don't want to put any words in his mouth, but he's higher than I am, and he's somebody that would make me think twice. There's a lot of people out there that are really high on Elijah Moore right now. I think he's kind of stuck as being a slot receiver in the NFL and probably a number 3 on a lot of teams. I'd happily be wrong, but I just don't see it, only because where his ability doesn't match for what it can do in the NFL is great in the slot, but his stride is too long for a slot wide receiver. And that's my concern. It's kind of like what I compared him to is Tim Tebow. Whenever he tried to fix his throwing motion, and they did for a little time, but he reverted back. If we could get Elijah Moore to take quicker steps and fix his stride, I think he could be a number 2. But fixing somebody's stride, like fixing something like that mechanical
change.
It's very tough. I go back to Jose Reyes in baseball. For everybody that knows baseball, when they kept trying to change how he ran and then he got hurt doing so, like it's sometimes it's really hard to change mechanics that are that innate.
Yeah. I like that you talk about the Tebow one, because I'll never forget that game-winning touchdown pass that he threw. That, like, he regressed back to, like, his, like, Pop Warner. Like, he just brought that ball down to his knee and just wound it up as wide as he could. I mean, yeah. But so something else I wanted to talk about. This is another story I heard that I hope I'm setting you up for. You've been in the industry for a little while. You get your face out there on shows and whatnot. Have you had somebody come up to you on the street and recognize you? Or at least maybe you thought?
Well, so the only time I've ever had somebody recognize was actually at a church thing that I went to. Somebody at the church I was at was like, "Oh my God, you're Jake Ciely." And I was like, "Really? Like that's somebody's really like, you're Jake Ciely?" Like, like I was taken back by it, because what actually happened the one time I thought it was happening, it wasn't. So there was an event in Atlantic City, which was a fantasy football convention. I forget what it was called. But way back in the day, this is while I was still at the old company. And I was on a panel and, 4 of us on stage and asking questions from the audience. And it was a topic we were discussing. I don't remember what the topic was. And afterwards, you come down and, the crowd kind of gets out of their seats and they start talking to you and stuff like that. And there was 2 dudes and I was standing right on the edge of the stage, and 2 dudes walked up to me and the guy goes, "Can I get a picture?" And I was like, in my mind, I'm like, holy crap. Like somebody actually wants a picture with me? Like that's like, what the hell? And so I was like, yeah, sure. And he hands me his phone as they go stand on the stage. He wanted me to take a picture of them standing on the stage.
Oh, no. Come on, Jake. No.
Yes.
Oh, God. I'm cringing. I have secondhand embarrassment for you.
Those are like my favorite stories. I've been that type of cringe humor is right down my pipeline.
I love it.
I've been watching Nathan For You a lot lately. I don't know if either of you guys have seen that show. It is the most ridiculous show I've seen. This guy who's a comedian shows up to businesses and tells them that he's going to fix it, but does it just like in the cringiest way possible. I can't even begin to explain it. Nathan For You, check it out if you haven't already. But Jake, before we sign off here, I'm just wondering if you had anything else that you wanted to plug. I know we talked about the has that been released yet? The 85 profiles that you're doing? So where can we find that?
If you have not heard it, it's awesome. And the podcast that he does with The Athletic is actually really an easy listen, very good, very informative. Jake, I said on the last show, he's kind of like the grumpy cat, but like the grumpy, funny cat of the show. It's awesome.
So where can we find your profiles for these rookies? Is that on The Athletic?
Yeah, it's on The Athletic. I'm assuming there's always some type of deal going on out there. I wonder. Let's see if I can find out what the deal is right now.
$1. So.
Yeah, well, there was $1, but I don't know if that one ended. So I'm going to open an incognito. It did end. Yeah. Now it's $3.99 a month.
Now.
Yeah, so $3.99 a month. Yeah, $4 a month. Yeah.
I don't even know what I'm paying. Whatever I'm paying is worth it. The Athletic puts out great content. It's one of those that I don't even think twice about paying for.
And that's what I'm saying. I'm like 1/100th of the site. Like that's the thing. It's like if you have a favorite team to follow all this stuff that's going on over there, like I mean, you were like, oh, you want to pay for your rankings? I'm like, I'm not charging for my rankings. It's the company I work for. So, but yeah, at The Athletic, I tweet a lot at All In Kid, which involves, of course, my cereal reviews and dating fails. Oh yeah, who asked about it? Somebody asked about it.
Yeah, Troy was.
I wasn't even going to talk about that.
So now that we've come full, let's hear it. Troy was asking earlier.
There you go.
Your dating horror stories.
There was way too many of them. The one that started it, real quick, I'll give you that one. The one that started it, it wasn't even intentional how this snowballed into something, but I matched with somebody and it was on the apps, which I've done with the apps. Yeah.
He found his Tinderella, so don't worry.
I met my wife there. I met my wife
on Tinder
8 years ago in Chicago on Tinder, and we're still strong.
I don't
and
believe
married.
You.
We've got a sign hanging up on the kitchen that says "Cheers to swiping right."
I don't believe you. Well, this one was on Hinge. So
All right.
there you go. So she said that she does videos and she's trying to be like an actress type video type thing. Yeah, I see your response there, Steffi, and that was kind of my.
I'm so embarrassed for her.
So I was like, okay, so like what's something you've been doing? And she said, I made this one where it's like there's a plague going around and I wake up and everybody's like dead and like there's only a few people left and not really a zombie. And this was last year around this time. And so it was like COVID. And I was like, oh, well, that's topical. And her response was, haha, very funny, asshole. And I said, did I miss something or is that meant for somebody else? Like, did you send it to the wrong person? And she said, no, you don't need to be an asshole. You meant typical. And I responded back with,
oh my God.
No,
I meant topical as
Pick up a
in.
dictionary.
So, and then she unmatched me like 2 minutes later after realizing and that's just what started it. I shared that, and this is what started all these other date feels. I'd say the most recent one. Again, I've been done with the apps for a little while.
I need more. I need like 2 more stories. You can do the
two
most
more.
Recent. Yeah, you need most recent and then like a middle story. So you gave us like the one that started it, but we need like a middle story and the most recent.
All right. Well, I'll give you a middle story. I've been ghosted a lot of times. I don't understand why people like talk, and then just stop. But that's somebody told me like I talk too much and just plan the meetup, which I tried and that didn't even work. But anyway, this was texting for a while. This is the one that I tried. We matched on Tuesday, texted Wednesday. On Wednesday night, I was like, hey, let's meet up Saturday. Text all day Thursday. Friday, texting about like, what do you want to do? And then Friday at noon, don't hear anything. So at like 6 o'clock, I sent a message and said, hey, rough work day. She works at a school. She does billing for K through 12. I was like, rough work day or whatever. You know, what did you want to do for tomorrow? Don't hear anything. So going to bed, send one more. Said, hey, just want to know if we're still on for tomorrow. That's all it says. So I wake up Saturday morning to a long text and it says, hey, it was a terrible day. I just wanted to go to bed. I'm really sorry. I should have communicated better, blah, blah, blah. I was like, oh, you know what? Okay, I'll give her a pass. So I text back. Oh, wait. I text back. She immediately responds, you know, again, sorry, blah, blah. Like, you know, what do you want to do this afternoon? I say, hey, I'm going out with my niece and nephew around 3 or 4 o'clock. It's like, we'll meet up after that. Let me know if you want to get food or I'll eat before we meet up with them. So texting back and forth. She sends me a picture of her in bed, not naked, just but her in bed, saying, just laying here thinking about how much fun we're going to have. Whatever. Noon comes.
I hate girls. Okay, go ahead.
So noon rolls around. I don't know what it has to do with noon, but noon rolls around and she doesn't respond to my last text. So, you know, I go on about my day. I send a message at 3 saying, hey, headed out with my niece and nephew. Let me know about the food thing. Don't hear anything. Send a text at like 6:30. And I said, well, I'm kind of getting a case of deja vu over here. Don't hear anything. And never heard anything ever again. That was like never, ever again. Yeah. So
that sounds like a woman that's in a relationship to me, Jake.
That's what somebody else said.
That would be my guess.
Weird.
Yep.
Sounds like you're matching with weirdos. Like, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be mean. We can do maybe Dave. Maybe we need like a like a dating show or something at this point. Like,
we're already putting it. You got one more, you said?
Well, yeah, you said you wanted 3. This is a quick version one.
I want the most recent one.
That might have been.
No, the good one. If there's a better one.
No, there's not a better one. This is the one I'm still pissed off like Joe Montana as of today. I'm still mad about this one.
Well, we hate John. We hate him.
Yeah, well, we can hate this girl too. I'm really pissed off about this one. I'm still mad about this one.
Block him as well.
Thank you. So here, I'll give you the one I'm mad about, and then that'll be it. I mean, there's other stuff, but it's not appropriate for the show. So there's. Look at your face. So match with this girl real quick too, like a Wednesday, let's meet up, whatever. So we've already discussed the fact that I don't drink a lot because I hate the taste of alcohol. Like I've legitimately had fruity drinks made for me. And I'm like, nope, there's something wrong with it. I don't like the alcohol taste. We had a get together here at the house and somebody made, not rum cake. Yeah, rum cake. Glad it out. Made a rum cake, and
Botox, fuck.
I ate a piece of it, and I asked if there was something wrong with the cake, and somebody said the rum's not cooked off.
Oh,
So
come
that's-
on.
No,
Jeez.
I'm just saying though that's how sensitive my taste is for alcohol. Like it's a thing. Like I just the taste of alcohol. So anyway, we've already discussed the fact that I don't really drink. So she still says, "Let's grab drinks." I say, "Fine, whatever." We head out. 30 minutes before we're about to be there. Hey, I'm going to be late.
She's getting drunk. She's getting drunk to meet you.
No, not even that. So I'm going to be late. The babysitter's running late. Didn't tell me we had kids until 30 minutes before we're supposed to meet up. Like, so like what? Like you're going to hide out? Like, hey, by the way, I have kids 30 minutes beforehand. So I don't cancel. So still show up. She's late because of the kids. We get drinks. I nursed this half a beer the entire time. She orders 3 drinks, never once asking me, hey, is it still good if I order another? Hey, are you good still? No, just orders 3 drinks while we sit there for 2.5 hours while she has her 3 drinks. And then at the end of oh, by the way, also, here's the third strike, also showed up, not like her pictures, if you kind of understand that. And
Yeah,
A little catfish.
yeah, a little bit of a catfish. So kids, a little bit of catfish, completely inconsiderate. And so say, good night or whatever.
For fucking disaster.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, and that's the F word.
And so I don't ghost people. That pisses me off after what's happened through me multiple times. So I sent a message at 10 o'clock afterwards because we left around 9. And I was sending the message with the hope, with the intent that she was going to respond. And I was going to say, hey, just so you know, didn't really feel like whatever. You seem like a nice girl. Because an opening text was, hey, it was good getting to know you. That's all it said. And I was hoping she would respond. And then I was going to let her down or whatever type of thing. No, after 3 striking me, this girl has the nerve to ghost me and not respond to my text. Like, F you, buddy.
That's what they do.
Like, F you, buddy.
Oh, man. Yeah, I do not miss it. It's a hard thing. It's a cruel world out there, guys.
Out here on these streets, okay?
We covered a lot on the show today, and Jake, you got some extra work now. You've got a weekly dating article you need to come out with.
Oh,
talking about your escapades.
Maybe we need
got
singles
Friday Funko.
Or like horrid
Friday Funkos.
Friday Funko, and then we've also got to get hashtag block Joe Montana trending. So we've got a lot of work cut out for us after the show today.
Oh, I had a girl ghost me after asking me if I had any kinks. We haven't even met.
Ooh.
We haven't even met.
We won't do ghosting on this episode because they will tell me ready to go, but I can tell some stories.
Oh man, it's hard out there in the dating world, man. 2021, things are getting weird.
Dave married with a beautiful wife. Dave is has the coolest wife ever who makes pies all day. It's so cool.
I still don't believe where you found her.
Yeah, it was bizarre. We met on Tinder. I won't tell the whole story, but we met on Tinder and then just happened to be free 2 hours after we matched, and we were a block away from each other in Chicago. And I was like, oh, I'm at the dog park with my dog. She was like, I'm a block away from that dog park. We met up, and the very next day I just deleted the app, and we just knew right off the bat, when you know.
Wow. You're like the one, have you ever seen the video where it's the person that they match and then they said, hey, I think we're in the same building, and they yell out the window, and the person was underneath. They were in the same building.
It was pretty close to that. I mean, it was really quick. She was like, yeah, I just got out of work. I was like, oh, cool. I'm at this dog park, Wiggly Field, right down the street from Wrigley Field. And she goes, oh my God, I work a block away from there, and I just got out of work.
Wait. The name of the park is Wiggly Field?
Wiggly Field. Yep.
That is the best park ever.
It's a good one. Almost up there with Saquon Barkley as far as the dog pun names go.
Yes,
but Barkley. I see Barkley there. Adorable. We'll go ahead and sign off. Before we do, if you want to let everyone know one more time where they can find you on Twitter, and then I'll have Steph do the same.
Yeah, at @AllInKid, hashtag block Joe Montana.
Hashtag block Joe Montana. Steph, you want to let everyone know where they can find you and what you got coming out tomorrow?
Yeah. You can find me at Stephie Smalls with 3 L's if I'm not already literally polluting your timeline. Even if you don't follow me, I'm there. I'm everywhere at this point. And Jake came on my show, my first show ever with FTN. It's coming out tomorrow. It was very nerve-wracking. It's my first solo show. We will see how it comes out, but check it out. It'll be out tomorrow.
We got a lot of Jake coming up in the near future. And then next
Too
week,
much.
same time next week, we've got Sports Illustrated Eric Moody coming on to join us. So 4 p.m. Eastern time, you can find us at our Friday show. I'm
That's a
Dave
good one.
Kluge.
I'm Stephie Smalls.
And thank you for tuning in.